The Surf Riders Super Showdown, proudly brought to you by Surf Rider, Coca-Cola and the Keep Australia Beautiful Council.
If you want to set your watches, we'll start in 10 minutes from now. It will be a beach start. You'll both go off the beach and the first one around the buoy gets priority. So if you want to set your watches from now, it's 10 minutes and then we're away.
Welcome to Trigg Point for the glass recycling Surf Rider Super Showdown for 87. Hard on the heels of the Margaret River Thriller, this is an invitational event, the first of its kind anywhere in the world, in fact, featuring 16 surfers split into 8 two-man teams. And the teams competing are from the USA, ACI Beach Crew, Australia 1, Australia 2, USA West, the rest of the world, Western Australia, and Surf Rider. Each heat has run over 30 minutes, with each surfer allowed to catch 3 waves, for the highest scoring wave by each surfer making up the team score. So with some of the world's best surfers competing for the $8,000 winner-take-all prize, the competition is expected to be pretty fierce. So with Heat 1 about to start, let's join our commentators Ian Cairns and Gary Linden.
And out in the water first for USA is Tommy Curren in the red, and surfing for the ACI Beach Crew is Matt Manners.
Matt's actually in the red and Tom Curren's in a pink, a fluoro red, so it's a little bit confusing, but they'll keep their colors all the way through the competition, each team. So that's why they're in similar colors out there.
Well, it should be a very exciting heat, this one. Two-time world champion Tommy Curren. He's going to do incredible fast, speedy manoeuvres, and Matt Manners, one of the top local stars here in Western Australia, has really got his job coming out for him to try and knock off Curren, don't you think, Gary?
Well, you're always up against a world champion. You got your work cut out for him, but I don't think Tom surfed this break too much, and Matt Manners might have a little bit of local knowledge, and it should help him pull through. Notice he's sitting over at the point where some of the better waves come in, and Tom just hasn't found the position yet.
Oh, we have a paddle there, taking off is Matt Manners up on the first wave of the heat, trying to speed down the line, a section in front of him doing a snap off the top. More of a wave to get his feet under him and to get ready for the contest rather than a real aggressive scoring ride. Curren is paddling into a peak, taking off, carving off the top and snapping off the face, going to drive down the line, going for a floater re-entry, snapping off the top and catches the front edge again. That's 2 waves and 2 mistakes. Curren is certainly going to have to go out there. The pressure is on for Curren to get one great wave now.
We see Matt Manners paddling into a smaller wave.
It's sucking up, the rip making the wave stand up, off the bottom, off the top, cut back onto the white water. The board's manoeuvring backwards and forwards very fast. Got a lot more green face, a big snap off the white water. This will be quite a good scoring wave for Matt Manners.
He's doing really well. That's 2 solid rides. Not the big individual maneuver that Tommy pulled off, but definitely a nice ride and a good backup to his first one.
Yes, it certainly was. Tagging Todd Holland. Holland out there. Look at the life and energy of this young surfer from Florida.
That's what I was going to say. There's the electricity that we were looking for Tommy to produce.
And here we have Matt Manners running up the beach, going to tag with Schmittenberg. Manners getting quite a good wave. Schmittenberg on his way. Well, I'm looking for some very fast, snappy, down-the-line speed maneuvers from Todd Holland. And he comes, of course, from Florida, Cocoa Beach in Florida, where the surf is invariably small and onshore and windy, so these conditions will suit Todd.
Well, here's that wave we were talking about. He's lined it up pretty nicely. He's turning around. He's going to paddle into it.
He's up and riding. You can see from down the line, driving the board off the face, picking up the speed, flying down the face and up in a floater re-entry. That was very fast. The fins spun out over that white water. That was a very radical move. Todd Holland keeping it going and drops off at the end. Well, we just saw Todd Holland riding his second wave, and now in front of us, John Schmittenberg going for a backhand cover-up. Looks like a real challenge out there now.
Boy, now we're really got the pace wound up. Todd Holland with 2 good waves, and John Schmittenberg coming up with an excellent backside tube ride. We're seeing some real hot surfing that we came down here for now.
And there's the start of the second heat. in this Recycle Glass Surf Riders Super Showdown. We have paddling out now Robbie Page in the green and Paul Manners in the yellow. And up and riding on the first wave of the heat, we have Robbie Page showing his style, pumping up the action. Reasonable scoring wave. It does have a little wall in front of him, and the surf is tiny, but Robbie Page making the most of it with plenty of maneuvers. That's going to be a fair score on that wave.
A little biography on Robbie Page. He's 20 years old. He's from Wollongong. He's currently ranked number 24 in the ASP World Tour. He got a 5th at the Margaret River Driller last week, and some of his other best performances are 9th in the Gusty and also in the Spur State range, both in South Africa.
So he's doing quite well on the tour, a young surfer with only a couple of years of tour experience. Surfing here in this Super Showdown with Merrick Davis, another young Australian.
He's out in the water right now with Paul Manners, 22 years old, local boy from Wanneroo, still an amateur. His 6th Australian amateur titles in '87. He's a member of the Australian team going to Puerto Rico this year.
So Paul Manners, we can see paddling for a smaller wave here. Tiny wave at Triggs, but I think he's going to pump up the action. Driving off the face with a big snap, carving the board up and down, looking for a re-entry down the line, floater over the white water. A little bit more life, zest and energy than we saw from Robbie Page, and that will be a fairly good scoring wave. So we're off and running the third heat of the round 1 of the Recycle Glass Surf Riders Super Showdown. And out on the water, surfing in white, is Dave Parmenter from the USA West team. And surfing for the rest of the world is Josh Parmentier, a young surfer here on the Australian team, surfing from Western Australia.
And outside, Dave Parmenter swinging around to take off on his first ride of the heat. He's up, he's got a nice looking wave, comes off the top hard, working it down the line. Look at this wave line up in front of him. Boy, he's going incredibly fast. Look at that floater. Doesn't quite hold on, but what a great ride.
Paddling and up and riding. Josh Parmentier on his third wave, a small wave, but going down the line with speed, trying to throw a big re-entry, but a little bit restricted by the quality of the wave. Parmentier is going to bring it in. I'm not sure if he's going to be very happy with that ride. And out in the water, 4th heat in this first round, Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson surfing for WA, and surfing for the Surf Rider team, Mick McAuliffe and Benton Moran. McCauley and Thorson certainly the 2 hottest rated surfers on the tour, so coming from Western Australia, and McAuliffe and Moran, 2 very hot, talented amateurs.
Well, out in the water right now in black, we've got Mitch Thorson. He's 23 years old. He's living in Margaret River, currently ranked number 12 on the ratings. His best results this year in 1987 were a 5th place at the Thriller last week, and a 5th at the Gotcha Pro in Hawaii, also a 5th at the Gunson 500 in South Africa. He's out in the water currently surfing against Mike McAuliffe, 26 years old from North Beach. He's an amateur. He's number 2 in Western Australia. He's captain of the Australian team to England 1986, 4 times on the Australian team, and 11 times on the WA team.
We see Mike McAuliffe paddling for a wave, a left-hander that could have a good score for him, driving down underneath a whitewater section, snaps off the top, setting up for another section down the line, coming out to the camera now, re-entering over the whitewater, and trying to pump up for another maneuver on the inside section, getting a lot of distance and a number of good scoring waves. That's a good starter wave for Mike McAuliffe.
As we watch Mitch Thorson on his first ride, a little bit behind the peak, big maneuver there, rebound off the whitewater. That's going to be a good scoring ride. Didn't have the continuity that McAuliffe's ride had, but it had a bit more flair and a little bit more flash on it.
Yeah, a bit more zest. And we're up and running in the second matchup between Curren and Holland from the USA and Manners and Schmittenberg from the ACI Beach Crew WA team. You can see Todd Holland trying to keep moving, paddling, and they're going to try and paddle for everything. But Schmittenberg, on the inside position for this wave, is going to paddle in and take off, going backhand, going right down the line. You can see the whitewater section coming up in front of him, up and over the whitewater, a little floater. He's going to score at reasonable points. Look at that little re-entry, backwards and forwards on almost nothing. decent starting ride for Schmittenberg.
As we watch Todd Holland paddling into a nice one.
Woo! Yeah, that was a beautiful snap off the top there. Todd really showing us that he can surf with the waves like this. Look at him pumping up the action, up and down. He's got a little reform piece of green face in front of him, and almost on nothing he's able to still continue doing maneuvers. It's going to be a good scoring wave for Holland.
We see Marie Curren, Tommy's wife, jumping up and down, hoping that her man can go out there and score a big one.
And we see on the outside, Tommy Curren up on his first wave of this second matchup, going right, going down the line, slashing a cutback, spraying the air, flying down a cover-up as the whitewater cascades over. Tommy Curren looking like he's much more in form.
Yeah.
And out in the water now, the start of the second heat between Merrick Davis and Robbie Page of Australia 1 team versus Simon Law and Paul Manners of the Australia 2 team. Right in front of us now, we have Paul Manners paddling and taking off in a wave, whitewater surge, snapping off the top, driving down the line. The section falls in front of him. Not able to do a really big scoring maneuver, but he does get started in this heat.
And paddling for a wave, Robbie Page. This is his first ride of the heat, backside. He's going to come off the lip. Not quite the spunk we were looking for, but there he goes. That's the one. You see how he reverse shoulder re-entry on that, Ian? Really changed directions nicely.
Up and down. Good scoring wave. And bring it in and go for the tag. And looking at Robbie Page in the replay, smaller wave with a lot of whitewater on the face, but Robbie paddles down the line, pumps off the takeoff, up and down, a lot of speed, drives it down the line, doesn't cut it back, but goes down the line waiting for the big re-entry and snaps it off the top of the wave. It's going to be a good scoring ride.
He really planned that wave excellently too, Ian, as you see him, as he set up for one. He could have pulled off a big vertical one there in the middle of the wave, but he saw it was going to line up further, and he went for a little bit more distance and got 2 maneuvers in, and still the intensity on his final maneuver that he could have put into the first one.
And paddling for a wave, looks like a terrific wave. Paul Manners up and riding, lining up to snap off the face. Big maneuver, the wave sucking out another snap off the face, and a little whitewater re-entry, and he falls down. I cannot believe he would wipe out on a wave that could have been the highest scoring wave of the heat.
Well, we watch outside, Merrick Davis really pouring it on. Look at that speed and electricity, Ian.
Well, a lot more zap, speed and electricity, and no mistakes. It's the difference between an amateur and a professional out here. Merrick Davis really making something out of nothing, and Paul Manners wiped out in the wave before. And that's the start of heat number 3, round 2. USA West, the team of Dave Parmenter and Gary Clisby, surfing against the team, the rest of the world, Pierre Tosti and Josh Parmentier. Look at the crew down the beach there. Robbie Page always with a smile on his face. Merrick Davis and a young fan, as we see Pierre Tosti up and riding on a nice wave. Plenty of wall out in front of him. Going down the line, slashing off the top. Plenty of speed, trying to bring it in the inside section. Pumping the board with his legs. Pierre Tosti scoring a good wave. Going to power in now and let Josh Parmentier have a go.
You watch it here on the instant replay. He takes off nicely, gets some speed, but gets a cutback there, but he's not the salesman for his surfing that he should be. He's doing some nice smooth maneuvers, but it's not the flash, not the speed, not the excitement that the judges are looking for. And I think he made the right decision tagging off to the younger Josh Parmentier to amp up the performance a little bit and build on his consistency there.
And outside, Dave Parmenter up and riding, flicking it off the top.
Woo!
Powerful maneuver. Up off floater, whitewater floater, 2 of them, 3 of them. Dave Parmenter is surfing so well. Kicks the board in front, back on his feet. That's incredible agility.
Oh,
Dave
man.
Parmenter really coming alive. So the surfers hit the water for heat number 4. From Western Australia, Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson. And from Surfrider team, Mike McCauley and Benton Moran. And you can see in blue, Benton Moran powering out there, and in black, Mitch Thorson. And outside, Benton Moran appears to have a wave lining up for him that looks like it could be very, very good. He's kicking his feet, paddling hard, driving down the line, a lot of speed. Section falling, drives around it, up off the top, big snap. And another re-entry, good scoring wave for Benton Moran. Whitewater pushing him further down the line. Behind his surfboard, Benton trying to keep the board moving. A couple of good scoring maneuvers. That could be just the wave that Benton was looking for.
That's damaging surfing there, Ian. That was fantastic.
And on the replay, you see Benton Moran up and riding fast. Section coming down in front of him. So much speed, he pulls around it. into a slash off the face. Big manoeuvre, then another floating re-entry, and then over a little bump, the whitewater pushing behind him. Benton Moran getting a good scoring wave. You see Benton coming in slowly, and as we see Mitch Thorson flying down the line, good scoring wave, big snap and a cover-up Cheerbride. Mitch Thorson's fighting back, and I tell you what, I think there's no way that Benton's wave could equal this one.
That was a beauty.
Well, as you can imagine, these guys do a lot of travelling. They're away from home 6, 7, perhaps 9 months of the year. So what about the females in their lives, the wives of the surfers? Joe McManus caught up with some of the so-called widows of surfing.
The life of a pro surfer sounds idyllic. Travelling the world, living on the beach, surrounded by beautiful women. But 10 months a year travelling can take its toll. You could call it the loneliness of the long-distance surfer. So it's no surprise to discover that many of the top names are involved in long-term relationships or already married. Marie Curren, Lorraine Macaulay and Denise Herrick all know the good and the bad of life with a professional surfer.
I think there's some really good points because it's nice to be able to live such a different lifestyle than everybody else and be able to have your own schedules and live close to the ocean. And maybe the bad point would be to be always in another place than home and live out of a suitcase, but that's not that bad. I mean, you get used to it.
At just 22, Marie has spent 5 years of her life travelling the circuit with world champion husband Tom. Denise, at the other end of the scale, has known her boyfriend Mitch Thorson for just 1 year.
Yeah, I met him last year while the Margaret River Thriller was going, about a week before the contest started, and we've been together ever since.
And have you been travelling with him all that time?
Actually, no. We met up together on the East Coast about a couple weeks after we first met, and then he came over to California after Christmas time, and he's come back there about 5 times, and this is my 3rd time here, so we sort of take turns, and starting now, I think I'll just be with him all the time.
Lorraine Macaulay has been married to surfer Dave for 2 years, and in that time, she's been, well, a surfing widow.
David usually goes away at least 1 month at a time. He hasn't really been back that much during the last 2 years. He turned pro just before we got married, and during that time we haven't really been together very much.
Of course, we all hear that professional surfers just have girls, girls, girls everywhere. Do you find that to be a problem?
No, in 5 years I've been on the tour, we never had any problem with that. We don't even think about it. I think the image of surfing's changed, and everything around it's changed too, so I don't think it's the same as it used to be 10 years ago.
What about you, Denise?
Well, in California, I have to admit, a lot of the girls are pretty aggressive, and sometimes if the boys are left alone, the women are just so aggressive that you think that they would take over. Not that, it would go the other way at all. But I don't ever worry about it because Mitch is really a trusting person and very loyal.
Well, between you here, we've got a French girl, a Californian, and an Australian. It's a pretty international gathering. Do you find that that's one of the good parts of the job, that you're meeting people from different countries all the time?
That's one of the best aspects of the life, is to meet people, and sometimes, lots of time you meet people that don't have anything to do with surfing, and it's really nice. It's a really good feeling. Interesting too.
What about your own careers? Does it bother you, Lorraine, that you have to give up your career for the sake of your husband surfing?
I don't mind because David's more important, but if we stay in a country for a longer period of time, I might be able to do some teaching because the diploma's recognised all around the world. I know Brazil and England, and I think someone was saying America need teachers, and Japan's really, anyone that speaks English, they try and rope into the system. So I'll be able to use mine. And I mean later as well, I could always come back to it. But I think more importantly, it's better to be with Dave travelling at this stage than staying back here working and being apart.
Well, to me, it would really be a sacrifice if I had like a vocation for something, if I really had a talent for something. I think I would have done it. I don't think I would have gone and, like when I was 18 years old, if I really had something I wanted to do, I would have done it, I think. But I got married, like I wanted to travel, and I didn't really have like anything I wanted to accomplish, so it wasn't like, I don't think I missed that. I think I learned a lot, and I think I still have so much time in front of me to do any sort of studying or work or, you know, 8 to 12, 2 to 5, some job. I mean, I'm not missing that at all. I have all the rest of my life to do that and have a family and everything.
But for these young women, a family is going to have to wait. Their men's careers, surfing, remain priority number one.
You are the girl that keeps me up at night. You are the girl.
And coming up in the first matchup from the USA, Tommy Curren and Todd Holland, and from Western Australia, the ACI Beach Crew team of Matt Manners and John Schmittenberg. You can see Schmittenberg with the green surfboard, Todd Holland in the pink vest, powering out there as the heat begins.
Well, Todd Holland's 18 years old from Cocoa Beach, Florida. He was number 30 currently in the ASP ratings. He's the first year on the tour. In 1984, he was the 3rd World Amateur Contest. And this year, his best results as a pro were his 5th in the Hang Loose Pro in Brazil, 1987. And he'll be up against John Schmittenberg, 22 years old, from Trigg's Point here via Durban, South Africa. He's 5 times Western Australia state team, and this is his first year as a pro. Todd Holland, I believe, with priority, should be able to take this one on his own.
Paddles into the wave behind the peak, up with speed, flying down the line. Looks like good maneuver there by Todd Holland. Another one, pumping up the action, keeping the board moving backwards and forwards, going up over the white water. 3 or 4 maneuvers in a row, and now with a little reform section on the inside, Todd Holland's going to try and bring the board all the way through to the beach, and will power in here, feeling he's got a good scoring wave. He's going to go for the tag. Paddling on the outside, John Schmittenberg up and riding on his 2nd wave. Good re-entry, handles the impact, but he's not able to get those 1, 2, 3, 4 maneuvers, even though he continues the wave on the inside. He's going to bring this one in and tag and bring out his other teammate, Matt Manners, but I don't think that was anywhere near the score of Todd Holland.
The Australia 1 team were outscored by 0.2 by the Australia 2 team of Simon Law and Paul Manners. And in round 3, the USA West Coast team of Dave Parmenter and Gary Clisby eliminated the rest of the world team of Pierre Tosti and Josh Parmentier, 44.6 to 41.4.
Just started the professional team from Western Australia, Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson. And for the Surf Rider amateur team, Mike McAuliffe and Benton Moran. And remember, this is one of the closest matchups of the day, only 0.3 separating these 2 teams for this competition. Paddling in the outside takeoff area, Mike McAuliffe seems to be lining up with a wave that may have good form. He drives into the takeoff, driving down the line, off the top, big slash off the top, almost catches his nose. Section gets a cover up. This is a very good scoring wave with a radical re-entry down the line. Again, we saw that the ability to go down the line, generating the speed. And outside, Dave McCauley off the top twice, going down the line again with a follow-up wave, surfing it backwards and forwards. Not as many maneuvers as McAuliffe, and I would give the edge to McAuliffe on those 2.
Yeah, McAuliffe definitely had the advantage on that.
It's been pretty hard for the guys out there. The conditions a little sloppy, but we get over with the heats and now into the semis, the serious business. The first semi-final between the USA team of Todd Holland and Tom Curren against Simon Law from New South Wales and our own Paul Manners.
And the first heat is underway. The USA team of Tommy Curren and Todd Holland versus Australia 2, Simon Law and Paul Manners. And you can see the first guys out in the water are Todd Holland in pink and Paul Manners in yellow.
And paddling for this wave, Todd Holland. It's going to be a second ride. Takes off, gets a nice down-the-line thrust. Good cutback for these conditions. Keeps it working. Another nice maneuver. He's got some green face. There's a 3 maneuvers. Small wave, but we haven't seen much better come through. I think they're going to have to give him a much better score this time, Ian.
Well, Todd's coming in to tag his teammate Tommy Curren, and yes, that certainly is going to be a much better score. And we'll look at that on the replay as Todd Holland paddles into a wave that looks like has a nice wall in front of him, drives off the takeoff. Remember, speed is the essence in small waves. Snaps it off the face, and he lines up, pumps down the line off the top, and begins to pump with his knees and ankles up off the top of the white water. That's a good scoring wave for Todd Holland. So we have Sean Murphy down on the beach with Todd Holland to talk about that last ride.
7.6 wave, Todd. Do you think that'll be one of your scoring waves?
Well, as it stands now, it is. I got one more wave, so hopefully I can improve it.
Pretty difficult conditions out there. What sort of strategy did you discuss with Tom?
Well, you know, just go out and try to get my one good wave real quick and then come out and let him get one without spending a lot of time just using up all 3 of my waves right off, so we both can get good waves at first.
Well, it certainly seems that Todd Holland's strategy has paid off, and he has a big score under his belt, and we see current world champion Tom Curren paddling into his first ride. He's going left down the line, off the top, and a beautiful little re-entry. Snaps it off the face again. He's going to pump up in the white water for another maneuver. Big floater over the white water. Extremely difficult maneuvers to perform in waves that seem to have no power.
We watched Simon Law paddling into his first wave.
He's got plenty of distance down the line, speed.
Well, he used that strategy of paddling down the line in the direction he intended to go. That seems to be paying off, as judges seem to be rewarding distance today over the individual maneuver.
American Todd Holland is one of the many who travels the world chasing the surfing dollar, and as you could expect, the conditions vary quite a bit from place to place, making board selection very critical. In some cases, it can mean the difference between success and failure. Well, Todd Holland took some time out during this competition to speak with Sean Murphy and Gary Linden about his selection of boards.
Well, on the international competitive scene, you never know what kind of conditions or waves you're going to come up to, so you've got to have a good, what we call a quiver. And we've got a 6-footer up to a 9.2 to face all kinds of conditions. Basically, you use a smaller board, small waves, and the larger board and the big stuff at Waimea Bay in Hawaii.
Todd, I noticed on 3 of these boards there's still plenty of dust from the factory and they haven't got a wax coat. Have you actually had to ride a board this big in Hawaii before?
Well, the biggest board I've ridden in Hawaii was an 8-foot board last winter in Waimea, and the waves were 20 feet, and then I found myself I was with about the shortest board that anybody had in the water, and a little bit undergunned, so I just decided to come better prepared this year.
20 feet waves. Well, you certainly won't be getting any surf like that today, so would you like to tell us just a little bit about your small board?
Yes, the small 6-foot board over there at the end, it's a lot shorter and beefier in the rails and everything. The rails are a lot harder towards the edge. If you notice, it's a square tail back at the bottom for more relief. And it's a little bit more so you can snap it a little bit faster, and it won't quite bite as much.
And Gary, in the longer boards here, I noticed there's some very refined pintails. What are the advantages of those in larger surf?
Well, a pintail will give you a more extended turn, and the pin actually holding into that last ultimate release so that you get the projection that you need on down the line to make some of those larger waves.
Well, Todd, you're not a particularly big bloke, so what sort of problems does it present carrying 5 surfboards around the world?
Well, besides struggling around the airport, sometimes checking in can be quite a hassle because you can get charged up to $200 to $300 carrying this many boards. And, you know, if you're lucky, you can get the right person and it won't cost you much, or sometimes even free. Like I think Qantas flies some of the people for free, but otherwise, sometimes airlines can really hit you hard with money, excess baggage charges.
Mm-hmm. I noticed on your second smallest surfboard there too, you've got some pads down on the tail. Do you want to tell us what they're for?
Yes, it's Astrodeck gription pads, and it's actually, besides being a grip for your feet on your surfboard, it saves the deck of your board. You notice on my smaller board, where I've been riding them a lot lately, it didn't have any on because I ran out with me, didn't have any with me, but after surfing on it without it, my deck's kind of caved in from where all the pressure from my feet. So whereas on that board, it's not as bad because the padding protects the board.
Now, Gary, you shape surfboards for some of the best surfers in the world. Just how difficult is it to know what specifications a bloke like Todd needs as opposed to someone, say, in my size?
Well, it's basically all relative to your body weight and your body size. And I learned real early shaping custom boards in 1969 with Bob McTavish, one of the early Australian shapers. And he'd have you stand up next to your blank, hold your arms over it, and he'd actually trace around your body size. And that's really a good indication of what we're really trying to do. Tall, skinny guy needs a tall, thin board. Short, stocky guy needs a short, fatter board, because you want to have your body supported on top of the water. And then the next thing you look at is your wave size. So actually something like this Waimea Bay board is actually built for the wave, not so much for you. And I'll just put a little bit of thickness or a little bit more width to vary it out and keep you on top of the water so that you're not underwater and can paddle into the big ones.
Well, based on that formula, I don't really think this is the ideal board for me, unless, of course, I want to chase some really big waves. And while I'm chasing big waves, let's take a break.
And the second semi-final has started. Out in the water for the USA West team is Dave Parmenter and Gary Clisby, and surfing for Western Australia, Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson. And surfing right now in the first matchup in black is Mitch Thorson from Western Australia, and also surfing with him in white is Gary Clisby. And outside you see Gary Clisby going left again on his third ride. Reasonable score, but the wave completely lets down into white water. Clisby trying to make something out of this white water, and just up and down. Really not much value with that, although he does have a reasonable scoring wave. Going to come in and tag his partner, surfing in white, Dave Parmenter from Northern California. Clisby will run in.
Let's watch that heat. Now, if you saw it on when he first took off, he could have gone right. He doesn't have any wave to work and the wave's breaking towards him, so he really doesn't have much open face. He can't get that down the line momentum that he needs. And the only thing I can think of, Ian, is that in these small conditions, he preferred to face the wave. We watched Mitch Thorson taking off, going down the line right, and see how the wave just opens up a bit more for him.
Well, he has that little ball of white water pushing him down the line rather than working against him. He's able to do more maneuvers, even though the wave did actually close out on him. Thorson looking at his teammate and deciding to come in and let Dave McCauley out there against Parmenter. Dave McCauley stroking into a tiny wave, up and riding, a lot of speed and zest off the face speed, zapping down the line, getting the floater over the white water, a slash. He does seem to be able to do multiple maneuvers, and that's what the judges are looking for, speed and multiple maneuvers. And paddling into this next wave is Dave Parmenter, flying down the line, same sort of wave with a lot of speed and energy going down the line, a couple of maneuvers, a big floater re-entry, and we'll see if Dave can continue to get points on the inside. He does. He stands up again, he's pumping the board. A little ball of white water gives him a little bit of power. Dave giving us a bit of a comedy routine.
In semi-final number 1, Heat 2, Tom Curren and teammate Todd Holland scored 14.4, as did the Australia 2 team, but their first heat score kept them in the race. And in the second heat of semi-final number 2, the USA West Coast team were outclassed by local boys Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson, who handled the homegrown conditions a little better.
And we're into the third and final heat of Super Showdown semi-final number 1, USA versus Australia 2. Out in the water for the USA team, we have Todd Holland surfing in the pink, and out in the water for the Australia 2 team, we have Simon Law in yellow.
I was talking to Todd Holland yesterday. He said for a while he went away from his normal colors of fluoro yellow and red and tried some clear boards, and he was really noticing the difference in his performance, not able to really get that extra spark that he so characteristically uses.
Well, therefore, he feels that those colours really amp him up and give him the electricity, the enthusiasm that he needs to do that extra manoeuvre in small waves.
Well, he's been able to stay true to his form and pull those maneuvers off. See what he can do as he turns around and watches Paul Manners take off on a wave, pumping down the line. He's that big body, floater off the whitewater, milking it down the inside. He's got those long legs. He's got to really stay down low to stay with his wave, but unlike Tom Curren, he's not able to maneuver. Todd Holland, on the other hand, rebounds heavily, recovers nicely, keeps his body low. He doesn't have that far to go, and he can really milk it and pull off a maneuver in virtually nothing of a wave.
Todd Holland getting an excellent wave, following up on Paul Manners with a very high-scoring wave. So that was good surfing from both these surfers.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go for it, boys.
And there you have the start of the third and final matchup in the second semi-final from the USA West team, Gary Clisby in the white, and from the Western Australian team, Dave McCauley paddling out. McCauley's partner, of course, Mitch Thorson, and Clisby's partner, Dave Palmenter.
Dave McCauley taking off on his first ride. His back also the wave, being a goofy footer, but got that extra snap that enabled him to do that nice floater re-entry.
Paddling into the whitewater, trying to do one final maneuver. Looks like he's going to come in and tag his teammate, Mitch Thorson.
Well, he's got one score under his belt. I hope that Mitch doesn't waste any energy running down to the beach, because he's got to save that ankle. Let's watch Dave McCauley on the replay. Pounding down the line.
Lots more speed and aggro in that wave for Dave McCauley. Very good score.
Well, we'll take a look at Mitch's ankles. I don't know. He seems to be favoring his left now, and that's the broken one. The right one having been recently sprained because of the... he's sort of doing the penguin crawl down here, Ian.
Well, you know, he's having a go. All he really needs to do...
Oh,
he
hurt it again. Oh, boy.
Well, he's going to grin and bear it. Mitch Thorson is going to go out there, and he's going to go out and do as well as he can and back up his teammate McCauley.
And there goes Gary Clisby up on a nice size wave. Really rebounds, really uncoils, does a nice re-entry there. He's got to work it into the whitewater. He came back a little bit too far and didn't stay with the down the line motion that he needed to carry him into another maneuver. There goes Mitch Thorson taking off. He's got a little bit of a down the line wave. He's pumping it up nicely. He's going to set it up here. He hits the whitewater. Doesn't have any room for any big maneuvers. He's coming off of a foot injury, having hurt his foot running down to the beach, and he's feeling a little bit of pain. Here comes Gary Clisby on his backhand, pashes it through the lip, comes back down with the whitewater, a real big maneuver. That's the kind of thing we want to see from Mitch.
And down on the beach, I have Sean Murphy with Mitch Thorson.
Bit of a strategic move to paddle in there, Mitch.
Yeah, well, I got a 7.1 for my second ride, which is a fairly solid ride, and Dave only has a 6.7, and I believe in. I guess he decided that Dave, you know, with only 9 minutes remaining, Dave better get back out and just consolidate on that, well, you know, try and improve on that 6.7 ride that he got, and by paddling in, we hang on to priority. So he's out there in a strong position.
Well, if you've ever wondered at home how a surfboard is built, we have some footage here, and Gary Linden is going to tell us exactly how.
Well, thanks a lot, Ian. We're going to start out with the rough-shaped blank that's already molded that way. You see Benton, he's going to apply some of the gear he needs necessary. First, a mask to protect himself from the dust. Then he's going to put some goggles to keep the dust out of his eyes. And last but not least, some earphones to protect himself from the noise that the power tools are going to make. First off, he's going to take the crust off the blank, give him a nice clean surface in which to draw the outline on. He's using an electric power planer, very lightweight. It's made out of hard plastic, enables him to actually control it with two hands or one hand. There he goes with one-handed stroke there. That's quite a contrast to the heavier planers we use in the United States. He's going to put out one of the essential dimensions. First of all, the length. Going to mark that. He's going to measure up from the tail 12 inches. That gives him his other essential dimension there. Right now we're using between 14 and 15 inches in the tail. He'll come back, mark a foot back from the nose, and then go and find the center or near center for his widest point of the surfboard. The shape is so important to a surfboard. It's what actually determines how the board rides. A lot of time is spent making sure that the board is symmetrical. He'll measure so it's exactly the same distance from each side of the stringer. You know, Ian, if you make a mistake here in the earlier stages, they just seem to multiply, compounding, one mistake on top of the other. So you have to use extreme care at all stages of the surfboard shaping. It's a handmade operation. You can witness here the great hand-eye coordination. Always focusing in. Getting a little bit of advice here from master craftsman Murray Smith. He's going to cut it out with the handsaw. The rough outline that he's drawn with his templates that are being used over and over again. Once again, extreme care, almost like a surgeon as he cuts that rail out. He's truing up the outline with a shear form there, so there are no rough edges. Every line dictates the following line, and you've got to make sure that they're all true to form. Now he's going to work the rough shape into the blank with that electric power planer again. He wants to bring both sides down on the bottom there, giving it a V shape so that the board will turn quickly from rail to rail, using his eyes once again to make sure that everything is symmetrical. Now he's using that shear form hand tool to work the rail down into that proper shape. Got to get the exact curve. You can't have it too hard because that'll make the edge catch. It's got to be the right combination of roundness and edge on the bottom so it'll break free. Now he's using a real interesting tool, and that tool is extremely sensitive. It's called shaping screen in the United States. We call it gauze over here in Australia, but it's built only for shaping surfboard foam. There's no other use to it. All the other tools are woodworking tools. There, Murray Smith's pointing out possibly a little bump there or something. You know, you get tired with all these fluorescent lights and the white foam, a little bit like ski or snow blindness. And it takes a fresh eye sometimes to point out some bump that you might have left out or overlooked. Murray, with about 25 years in the business, has definitely got an eye for fine tuning. You know, when you're working on these boards, it's so easy to leave something out, but Benton's done a fine job, and he passes it on to the glasser. Having performed the actual functional shape of the board, it's up to the glasser to laminate a fine skin to provide some strength so that the board will actually not absorb any water and really hold up against breakage. This is fiberglass cloth that he's putting on right now, and you notice he's trimming it out neatly so that the resin will be applied in a, once again, symmetrical form. You can't leave too much resin on one side, and you've got to work it back and forth if the cloth will actually soak up this resin. Resin is applied in a liquid form. It has a catalyst applied and actually gives you about 15 minutes of working time before it becomes hard. He's lapping the rails right now, getting a good edge, much like a beer can. How the round strength of the aluminum keeps it from crumbling. Now, if you just put it out without lapping the edge, it'd be very easy to break. He's working the resin, taking all the excess off so that it's not too heavy on one side. After he's laminated, you put a clear coat of resin on that is being sanded off in this procedure right here, so the actual shape of the board can be preserved, taking any bumps that might have been added with the excess cloth or resin there and putting it back to the shaper's original shape. You notice how everybody in this factory is using protective gear so that the dust won't get in their lungs. He's rounding the rails, smoothing it down nicely. And these tools make quite a bit of noise, as you can see Ab here with some protective headgear. Every process is a handmade procedure, and it goes step by step. It's got to take great care now so it doesn't knock off the fins. Now it's gone on to the glossing room where every excess bit of dust is being taken off the board by hand. That's really the only way you can feel it. He's going to brush on a very thin coat of glossing resin to give that beautiful high luster gloss that we see on the boards in the showroom.
So you can see these days board making is not just a job, it's an art form. Okay, we'll take a break. When we come back, the final, USA versus Western Australia.
Well, that's the start of the grand final of the Recycle Glass Surf Rider Super Showdown here at Trigg's Point, Western Australia. The two top teams going out in the final of the showdown. USA with Tom Curren and Todd Holland. You can see Tom Curren in the red there. And Western Australia with Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson. Dave McCauley in black.
Well, these two surfers are neck and neck in this race, and much the same as they are in ASP ratings. Dave McCauley out in front in third place, and Tom Curren currently holding down fourth.
Well, of course, Tom Curren, twice world champion, last year and the year before. Dave McCauley, the surfer in form, flailing, paddling around. First guy around the priority buoy has priority. Vitally important at the start of the heat.
Looks like Tom Curren.
Yes, the yellow flag is up. Tom Curren of America takes out priority. Dave McCauley is looking a little bit tired after a heavy sprint paddle. And up and riding is the first wave of the final. Dave McCauley from Western Australia off the top twice. And another third re-entry. Very good scoring ride for the first wave of the final.
And outside, Tommy Curren's got a nice one lined up. He's off and running real fast off the block, floater off the whitewater. Not much open face for him, and he bails out the back, knowing that's not going to be a high score for him. He's going to go right back out and try and pick up something a little bit better.
Well, first blood drawn, and it looks like the Australians have a very narrow lead. First wave matchup.
Well, Dave McCauley, meanwhile, has tagged off a teammate, Mitch Thorson, who's going to go out and try and pick up his score. Each team member has got to get a high-scoring ride, as it's a cumulative points of one wave for each rider.
Curren paddles into his second ride, flies down the line over the white water. Incredible speed as he snaps it off the face, over a section, re-entry, back into the white water, and this is where Curren normally can score that extra 0.1 or 0.2, but he chooses to paddle in. He's going to go for the tag.
Here goes Todd Holland on his first ride. Down the line, real hard and fast, rebounds nicely off the whitewater. Look at that recovery. Just coiled, unleashes, and then, just like a shock absorber, comes right back down and absorbs all that whitewater. Fortunately, didn't have a whole lot of distance in only one maneuver. I think he's going to need a little bit more as he works it into the whitewater.
Well, on the replay, we'll see that Todd Holland gets a lot of power and speed off the first re-entry. And you'll notice that the fins come completely out of the water as he free falls back down into the base of the wave, still stays in control. It'll be a good scoring wave, not exceptional, but a good backup wave for the team of Holland and Curren.
Well, that's the kind of landing you'd like to have your next jet flight do. As we watch Mitch Thorson take off on a bigger wave, get one nice maneuver there, pumps it down the line, little floater off the whitewater, snaps it up again, and it's going to work it all the way in.
What sort of a man is reigning world surfing champion Tom Curren? Well, as Joe McManus found out, his thoughts go a lot deeper than just surfing.
Young Tom Curren, 23 years old, 2 times world champ, and the best beach break surfer in the world. The boy from Santa Barbara has plenty of energy, plenty of talent. He's been slashing and carving for a long time.
Well, I was surfing as an amateur since I was 14 years old, and really one thing led to another. I had some good results in the state competitions, and then the amateur events around the country, and that led to the World Amateur Championships. And you know, the only thing after that was the option to turn pro.
Tom, you rated number 4 in the world at the moment after 2 years as reigning world champ. How confident are you of taking that crown out yet again?
Well, it's hard to predict what will happen at the end of the year. I'm still definitely within a striking range to come back really within the next few events, and I personally think it'll probably come down to the last two events of the year, which it did in pretty much every year previous.
How do you enjoy life as a professional surfer?
Well, I really enjoy it. I enjoy traveling because, unfortunately, because there's a lot of traveling, and just to be able to surf every day is great. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else.
Does it make a difference for you having your wife traveling with you?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I would imagine it'd be very hard to travel on the pro circuit with if you were by yourself, or if you had to, team up with guys, where you were virtually on your own the whole time. That would be very hard.
But that's a hardship Tom has never had. His beautiful French wife, Marie, has been by his side since he began on the pro circuit 5 years ago. You've been married since you were 18. It's very young. Do you ever get any flack because of that?
Not anymore. We, right when we first got married, or actually when we got engaged, people said we were way too young. It's hard to tell. When you get married, you don't really know whether it's a good decision or not, and it just takes a while before you realize. And but you can never tell, and for us it's worked out great.
Of course, not everything in life works out great, and one of the touchiest problems on the pro surfing tour is South Africa. Surfers are unlikely to be confronted by scenes like this, but still many choose not to surf there. Tom Curren is among them.
To me, it's an obvious reason. I don't go to South Africa because I don't want to have any part of the the government system over there. Surfing's growing so much that politics play a part in it, just as in in everything. And I want to play my part. I want to be responsible about the decisions I make. And it came down to a decision whether or not to go to South Africa because of those reasons. And I personally think no surfers from overseas should go there.
But you and surfers like you who choose not to surf in South Africa are penalised for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you have to take into account. And I've been able to do well with that for 2 years, and I've used the time away from the tour constructively. And so from that standpoint, it has worked out well. But sure, it's a definite risk.
But politics and surfing aren't everything in Tom's life. Certainly the water takes up most of his time, but he does have other interests.
Like here in Australia, when we have a little bit of a break, we like to, drive around, see the country. We went last week. We went down to Albany, which was very nice, and it was a good change because we get to, see a little bit of a different side of the country without, aside from the surfing. When we have a couple of months off and we're not on the tour, I try to take that time, maybe just to stop surfing for like a week or so and just clear my mind of it, and then restart and go into it fresh.
And I believe you're a dab hand at languages too.
Well, my wife's French, so I think it's a good opportunity to learn French, and we spend quite a bit of time over there, so when we're in France, we speak French pretty much all the time.
She says you're not too bad at Japanese.
Well, actually, I know a few phrases. I'm not that good, though. Japanese is actually really, really hard to learn.
Oh, well, you can't excel at everything.
final countdown on heat number 2 of the finals. You see Dave McCauley from Western Australia and Todd Holland from the United States racing out into the surf. The Americans with a 0.1 advantage, hoping to consolidate, and the Western Australians hoping to fight back. On the beach, Dave McCauley's teammate is Mitch Thorson, and on the beach, Todd Holland's teammate is Tommy Curren. Appears to be a wave. Todd Holland paddling for the first ride of the second heat of the final. He's up and riding. Up off the top of the wave, flying down the line with 2 good scoring maneuvers. Excellent wave for Todd Holland. Remember, he scored 8 points in his last heat, so he's capable of anything. Todd Holland bringing this wave all the way in. A smaller wave on the inside section, and we'll see Todd Holland on the instant replay paddling into this wave, paddling down the line, immediately into a turn off the takeoff, punching the board down the line with lots of speed, flowing over the whitewater section into another re-entry. Excellent surfing from the young Florida surfer as he comes over another whitewater section.
Well, he ripped that one up as he comes in to tag to teammate Tom Curren. Tom's going to go out there, get a big score. He's seen Todd get a real solid ride in there. We haven't got the score come through. It's going to be a good rave. And now Tommy's turn, because Todd used up a lot of time waiting for that one to come in.
And Dave McCauley up and riding on his first wave, slashes off the top, speed down the line. A second big re-entry, handles the impact, trying to keep momentum going as the wave fizzles out in the whitewater.
Well, he lost his balance there in that last re-entry. He was lucky to be able to pull it off. His teammate gets a signal to go back out there and try again. That wasn't what the score that they want to see.
Well, we see McCauley on the instant replay, hard off the bottom, good slash off the top, loses a bit of speed, has to pump it up again, goes into the second re-entry, and almost catches the nose, but handles the impact, but stalls out in the whitewater.
Dave McCauley with priority. He's going to paddle for this one. Looks like a good one. He's picking it up, into it quickly, rebounds off the whitewater, in the speed track. Whoa, nice floater there as he came up real high and came down with the breaking part of the wave. Yeah, good score for Dave McCauley. He's going to come in, having caught 2 waves, tag off to his teammate, Mitch Thorson.
Mitch Thorson up and riding on an inside wave. Looks like he's got a good wall in front of him, but he nosedives. That injury seems to be really hurting Mitch's surfing a little bit.
Well, he didn't even wear a leash. He's got to swim all the way in. His board's going to come all the way to the shore in. This is going to cost him. He's going to run. I don't think he should be running.
And down on the beach, we have a chat with Dave McCauley.
Well, Dave, an 8.4, that's probably the highest scoring wave of today, and it certainly made your job a bit easier.
Yeah, we were a little behind before that wave, so I think we needed something like that to get back into it. It's actually a long way to go still, you know. There's another heat after this, so Mitch needs to get a good wave, consolidate here too, so it's a real battle going on at the moment, I think.
I noticed a slight incident there with Tom Curren over the priority buoy. What happened there?
Well, Tom had priority and a wave came. We were both sort of looking at the wave, and it's a pretty fine line between, you know, whether you actually make a motion to catch a wave or not. And a lot of time guys sort of try and, you know, fake the other guy out of catching it. And I think that's what happened there, and they actually took priority off him when he sort of motioned for one of the waves.
He's got something looming up on the horizon. It actually looks kind of bad. Not much time left. He can get a good score. He needs at least a 6.5 here. He can score a 6.5 on this ride.
And a tube ride. Tommy Curren out of nowhere pulls off a tube ride, a fast floater re-entry, another re-entry. That's why he's world champion twice in a row.
Well, I think that's going to do it for him, because Mitch Thorson's best wave is only a 5. And it's a cumulative score here, and I think the Americans are out in front now.
Well, this is it, the third and final showdown. The grand final of the Recycled Glass Surfrider Super Showdown is almost off and running. We see Mitch Thorson in the black, Todd Holland in the pink as they sprint into the water. The USA, represented by Tom Curren and Todd Holland. Western Australia, represented by Dave McCauley and Mitch Thorson. Incredible surfing. The Western Australians down in 2 heats, but only by 0.6. Less than 1 point separating these 2 teams. Accumulative points over the 3 matchups. Western Australia really has a chance in this one, don't they, Gary?
Well, each guy's really going out there, and they're going to look for that $4,000 wave out there, Ian. That's the half of the winner's share here, and it's really come down to 2 waves right now. And here goes Todd Holland up on his second ride. He's really charging off the block this time. Does a nice floater, He keeps working it, got some open face, another nice maneuver for the size of the wave there. He's going to work it all in. I think he's going to go tag to Tommy this time. He's got 2 waves under his belt. Leave it to Tommy Curren to go out there and pick up the nail and seal this victory off for this American team.
Mitch Thorson paddling into a wave, white water on his shoulders, good wall in front of him as he snaps off the face, cutting back, powering down the line, beautiful flow to re-entry, keeping the maneuvers going, and his extra weight seems to bog him down just a touch in the white water, but his cheer squad really loves the action from Mitch Thorson.
Dave McCauley to take out Tom Curren now. See what these 2 guys can do out in the water.
And the wave is standing up for Macaulay. It does have a wall out in front of him. He's got a force down the line, speed down the line, flow to re-entry, and loses it. Macaulay is down on what could have been the highest scoring wave of the heat.
Well, that's a rough break for the Australians as Tom Curren paddles into his second ride. Doesn't get much out of this one. That's a nothing wave. He's going to have to go back and pick out something else.
We'll have a look at Macaulay on the replay. The wave lining up in front of him. Plenty of chop on the face, but he's speeding down the line, pumping up the speed. Look at that back foot. Lifts it up onto the lip. He comes over the section. Macaulay would have made that wave on any other day except today. Tommy Curren, the world champion with priority, certainly has all the firepower to take off this title, and as he takes off and drives down the line, you're going to see a spectacular re-entry. Hard slash off the top. Caught in the white water now, almost loses his balance, does go down. He's looking for somewhere to go, and that's the 3rd and final ride for Tommy Curren. And there it is, the hooter blows on the 3rd and final matchup of this grand final of the Recycle Glass Surfrider Super Showdown, but it's not over yet. The scores are completely tied up as Mitch Thorson makes his way into the shore break. We are going to go into a 1-heat Super Showdown matchup between the top surfer from the US and the top surfer from WA. Well, this is it. I never thought it had come down to this, but it really has. It's come down to a Super Showdown after the grand final of the Recycle Glass Surfrider Super Showdown down here at Triggs Point. These guys were totally tied up, the USA team and the Western Australian team, and they're off 3 waves each. Best one counts, a 10-minute challenge. And this is a Super Showdown heat. Tommy Curren in the red from the United States, Dave Macaulay in the black from Western Australia.
Well, this is going to be a great climax, Ian. I mean, there's 10 minutes. They got 3 waves. The best wave counts. And it's going right down to the final. This very well could be something that comes up at the end of the year because these guys are number 3 and 4 in the ASP title right now. It could be the pre-match for the World Championship.
Well, it almost could be, and you can see Tommy Curren, current world champion, powering out way in front on his way out to the priority buoy to establish priority in this 3rd, or even the 4th and final matchup.
I don't know, Ian. I don't know. When I signed up for this tour, I don't know if they included overtime, and I think we were calling for some Pepto-Bismol. My stomach's going up and down and up and down.
What incredible surfing action we've seen here at Triggs. Who would have thought it would have come down to this? The waves not looking really good. Tommy Curren paddling into the first wave of the Super Showdown, up and riding and flying down the line. Look at that spectacular style. Tommy Curren, fantastic speed off the top. Where does he get these maneuvers from?
Well, that's the kind of wave that's been scoring real well all day. A lot of down-the-line speed, covered a really lot of distance, seemingly from nowhere.
A head dip right at the end of that ride. What an incredible wave at Triggs Point. Onshore, 1-foot conditions, and Tommy Curren pulls out a showstopper.
Well, that's really...
And here it is on the replay.
And he's taking off, driving out of nowhere, this wave just lining up in front of him, doing a nice off the top there. Nothing really spectacular yet, but he's covering so much distance. A nice rebound there, keeping it going. Open face here where all the rest of the waves have been closing out. Gets a nice rebound there with no wave underneath him virtually. And then he's going to be the true sportsman that he is and cover it up. Head dip right there in the finish.
Well, what an amazing wave to start off the Super Showdown heat. And paddling into the second wave of the heat, Tommy Curren is up and riding. He's going to fly down the line. Another excellent wave opening up for him. Look at the speed as he punches it off the top. Woo! So much speed and aggression on that floater re-entry, and he comes down, falls off.
Well, he seemed to have found the slot now. He's got 2 waves down. He's only got 1 left, but he knows where those are breaking. He's found that sandbar that's reformed. Watch on the replay. Comes off the block fast. He starts building it up, giving those little pumps, and he puts it all into this one maneuver that he's set up right here now. Boom! Right through there. Right, rebounding down with the whitewater, recovers from that maneuver, but doesn't have anything left as the whitewater bumps him off.
Yes, paddling for a wave. Dave McCauley, a wave with good wall in front of him, snaps off the top and loses the edge, and he's down.
There it is. It's outside. Look at Tom Curren. He's lined up a beauty. This could be the $8,000 wave.
Curren is up and riding around the whitewater, flying down the line with such incredible speed. Floater re-entry, into another floater re-entry, and he's down. And that's the hooter. It's all over. Tommy Curren and Todd Holland from the United States have won the inaugural Recycled Glass Surf Rider Super Showdown here at Trigg's Point. Incredible surfing from the young American team. Right now down to Shaun Murphy with the champion Tom Curren on the beach.
Congratulations, Tom Curren. That was a nicely timed finish.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very fortunate to get that first wave right off the bat, and I put a little pressure on it. And although there were a couple of waves after that, there wasn't really anything that lined up as well.
$8,000, not bad wages for a weekend's work. Do you think there's much future for this sort of event?
Oh, I definitely do. I think it's very exciting. You know, people can relate to team events. It's a new thing for us. It's refreshing to do something different. And shoot, I think we're going to see a lot more of it in the future.
Your partner, Todd Holland, is rated 30th at the moment in the world in his first year of pro surfing. I guess with the performance he put up this weekend, you'd be looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, no, I've definitely had an eye on Todd for a while. He's proved himself in a few situations this year already, and I think he should do real well.
So unfortunately for the West Aussies, time and the waves ran out, allowing Tom Curren to steer his USA team to victory. And the first prize of $8,000 in this, the Glass Recycling Surf Rider Super Showdown. On behalf of myself, Chris Young, and commentators Gary Linden, Ian Cairns and Shaun Murphy, we hope you've enjoyed the telecast. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to go off looking for some of those big waves.